Hi there. Real quick before we jump into the episode. If you enjoy this episode, or any of the other episodes, be sure to give us a follow or subscribe. It would also be great if you shared it with a friend, or better yet, left a review so others can know how awesome it is. Thanks so much. And now, the episode.
Hey there, Press Starters, and welcome to the Press Start Leadership Podcast, the podcast about game-changing leadership, teaching you how to get the most out of your product and development team and become the leader you were meant to be. Leadership coaching and training for the international game industry professional. Now, let me introduce you to your host, the man, the myth, the legend, Christopher Mifsud.
Hey there, Press Starters, and welcome back to another awesome edition of the Press Start Leadership Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing balancing team needs and stakeholder demands in game industry leadership. A real-world guide to serving your team, managing pressure, and staying sane as a leader in the video game industry. Living in the middle is the job. Let us be honest, right from the start, leadership in the video game industry often feels like standing in the middle of a tug-of-war while both sides pull harder every quarter. On one side, you have your team, talented, tired, creative, opinionated human beings who want clarity, protection, purpose, and time to do good work. On the other side, you have stakeholders. Publishers, executives, investors, partners, licensors, and sometimes boards who want results, timelines, certainty, and growth. And there you are, in the middle, absorbing pressure from both directions, translating expectations, making promises, breaking others, trying to keep everyone moving forward without burning bridges or burning people out. This is the part of leadership no one really prepares you for. Leadership books often talk about vision, inspiration, and decision-making. They rarely talk about the emotional tax of being accountable both upward and downward at the same time. They do not talk about the quiet stress of knowing that every yes and every no disappoints someone. They do not talk about the mental gymnastics required to protect your team without lying, to be honest with stakeholders without throwing your people under the bus, and to do all of this while pretending you are not slowly losing your mind. If this feels familiar, you're not failing. This is the job. This podcast is real talk. Not motivational fluff, not sanitized advice. It's about how to serve your team, manage stakeholder pressure, and stay grounded as a leader in the video game industry. It's about acknowledging that this role is hard, that the tension is real, and that sanity is not something you stumble into. It is something you actively protect. Understanding the reality of the middle position. Leadership in a game studio is inherently isolating. Not because people do not care, but because you are often the only one who sees the full picture. Your team sees the workload, the stress, the blockers, and the creative challenges. Stakeholders see milestones, forecasts, burn rates, and outcomes. You see both. You also see the gaps between them. Why the pressure concentrates on leaders. Pressure flows downhill. Expectations flow uphill. Leaders become the compression point where these forces meet. This happens because teams rely on you to advocate for them. Stakeholders rely on you to deliver certainty. Both sides assume you can reconcile the two. Often, they cannot see how incompatible those expectations could be. The invisible labor of leadership. A huge portion of leadership work is invisible. Translating stakeholder language into team reality, filtering noise before it hits the team, reframing team concerns into business risk, carrying uncertainty so others do not have to, making decisions with incomplete information. This work does not show up on roadmaps, but it drains energy fast. Early warning signs you are absorbing too much. Leaders often ignore these signals until they are deep in burnout. Constant mental exhaustion, difficulty switching off, irritability and emotional numbness, feeling solely responsible for everything, avoidance of difficult conversations, resentment toward either side. Recognizing these signs early is not weakness, it is awareness. Actionable steps to understand your position clearly. Map the pressure sources. Write down who expects what from you and why. Identify conflicting incentives. Name where team needs and stakeholder demands clash. Acknowledge what is truly yours to own. Not every problem belongs on your shoulders. Notice when you are buffering too much. Shielding everyone all the time is unsustainable. Accept the discomfort is part of the role. The goal is not zero stress, it is manageable stress. Understanding the middle position helps you stop blaming yourself for structural tension. Serving your team without overpromising or shielding too much. Most leaders in the video game industry genuinely want to protect their teams. That instinct is good. It is also dangerous when taken too far. Over time, I learned that there is a difference between advocacy and martyrdom. The temptation to absorb everything. When teams are under pressure, leaders often promise relief they cannot guarantee, downplay risk or uncertainty, take all the heat themselves, avoid sharing uncomfortable context. This feels protective in the moment. Long term, it backfires. Why overshielding hurts teams? When leaders absorb too much, teams lose context, expectations become unrealistic, trust erodes when reality hits, leaders burn out silently, teams feel blindsided by sudden changes. Protection without transparency creates fragility. What sustainable advocacy looks like. Serving your team does not mean hiding reality. It means being honest without being alarmist, sharing context without spreading panic, advocating upward without lying downward. Teams are more resilient than we sometimes give them credit for. Actionable steps to serve teams sustainably. Share context intentionally. Explain why decisions are being discussed, not just what changed. Avoid false reassurance. Do not promise stability you cannot guarantee. Advocate with facts, not emotion. Stakeholders respond to impact and risk. Invite teams into problem solving. Shared ownership builds resilience. Protect energy, not just timelines. Burnout is not protection. Serving your team means preparing them for reality, not sheltering them from it. Managing stakeholders without selling out your team. Stakeholders are not villains. Most want the project to succeed. Most care about the team, even if it does not always look that way. The problem is that their incentives are different. Your job is not to choose a side. Your job is to translate reality. Why leaders feel pressure to oversell. Under pressure, leaders may commit to aggressive timelines, underestimate risk, minimize team strain, delay bad news, say yes too quickly. This often feels like buying time. It actually spends credibility. Credibility is your most valuable currency. Once stakeholders stop trusting your assessments, everything gets harder. More oversight, less flexibility, less room to negotiate. Honest leaders sometimes feel like they are failing stakeholders. In reality, they are building trust. How to push back professionally. Pushing back does not mean being confrontational. It means being clear, prepared, and grounded. Actionable steps to manage stakeholders effectively. Translate team reality into business language. Talk about risk, cost, quality, and sustainability. Be explicit about trade-offs. Faster means smaller. Cheaper means less polish. Set expectations early and revisit them often. Surprises erode trust. Say no with reasoning, not emotion. Stakeholders respect clarity. Document agreements and assumptions. Memory is unreliable under pressure. Managing stakeholders well protects your team more than empty optimism ever will. Communication as the pressure release valve. Poor communication amplifies stress. Good communication absorbs it. When communication is unclear, inconsistent, or infrequent, pressure builds on both sides. Rumors spread, assumptions fill gaps, leaders end up firefighting instead of leading. Why communication fails under pressure. Leaders often delay communication to avoid conflict, change messaging depending on the audience, assume people understand context they do not, speak reactively instead of intentionally. This creates friction when none needs to exist. Communication is alignment, not performance. Good communication is not about sounding confident. It is about being clear. Actionable steps to use communication as relief. Create predictable communication rhythms. Regular updates reduce anxiety. Assign messaging across audiences. Core truths should not change, only framing. Name uncertainty directly. Silence creates more fear than honesty. Repeat key messages. Repetition builds alignment. Close loops consistently. Unresolved threads drain energy. Communication does not remove pressure. It distributes it more evenly. Setting boundaries without losing authority or trust. Many leaders struggle with boundaries because they fear disappointing people. The irony is that the lack of boundaries eventually disappoints everyone. Why boundaries feel risky. Leaders fear being seen as inflexible, losing goodwill, appearing weak, letting people down. In reality, boundaries build respect. What boundaries actually do. Healthy boundaries protect team health, preserve leadership credibility, clarify priorities, prevent quiet resentment, enable sustainable performance. Boundaries are not walls, they are guardrails. Actionable steps to set effective boundaries. Define non-negotiable clearly. Know what you will not compromise. Communicate boundaries early. Late boundaries feel like betrayal. Explain the why behind boundaries. Context builds understanding. Enforce boundaries consistently. Inconsistency invites erosion. Watch for boundary creep. Small expectations become new expectations. Boundaries protect everyone, including you. The mental load of leadership and how to survive it. Leadership carries a mental load that rarely gets acknowledged. You carry uncertainty, conflict, responsibility, and emotional labor every day. Ignoring this does not make you stronger. It makes you brittle. Why leaders burn out quietly. Leaders often feel they must always be composed, avoid asking for help, internalize failure, stay constantly available, neglect recovery time. Burnout does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like numbness. Sustainable leadership requires care. You cannot serve your team if you are running on empty. Actionable steps to manage leadership mental load. Create thinking time. Space to think is not a luxury. Delegate decision-making. Shared ownership reduces pressure. Build peer support. Leadership should not be lonely. Notice your stress patterns. Awareness precedes change. Treat recovery as part of the job. Rest enables clarity. Staying sane is not selfish, it is responsible. Making trade-offs without losing yourself. Leadership is the art of choosing between imperfect options. This comes with guilt, doubt, and second-guessing. Why trade-offs hurt. Trade-offs often mean saying no to good ideas, letting people down, cutting work people care about, delaying progress. These decisions carry emotional weight. Value as your anchor. When trade-offs align with values, leaders can live with the outcome even when it hurts. Actionable steps to navigate trade-offs. Use values as a decision filter. Let them guide tough calls. Acknowledge emotional impact. Do not pretend decisions are painless. Reflect after decisions. Learn without self-punishment. Let go of perfection. Leadership is not about flawless outcomes. Remember why you lead. Purpose sustains you. Trade-offs test integrity more than skill. Final thoughts. You're not failing. This is just hard. If you're struggling to balance the needs of your team with the demands of stakeholders, you're not doing leadership wrong. You are doing leadership. This role is hard because it matters. Tension you feel is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that you care about people and outcomes at the same time. Serving your team does not mean shielding them from reality. Managing stakeholders does not mean selling out your values. Staying sane does not mean disengaging. It means setting boundaries, communicating honestly, and refusing to carry more than one person can hold. You will disappoint people sometimes. This is unavoidable. What matters is disappointing them for the right reasons: clarity, integrity, and humanity. Leadership in the video game industry is not about pleasing everyone. It's about stewarding people, projects, and yourself through complexity without losing what makes the work meaningful. If you're still standing in the middle, still trying to do right by both sides, still questioning yourself, you're probably doing something right. Just remember to take care of the leader in the middle too. All right, and that's this week's episode of the Press Start Leadership Podcast. Thanks for listening, and as always, thanks for being awesome. Oh, hi. And the episode's over, but thanks for sticking around till the end. Be sure to check out more episodes in the playlist and new episodes every week on Monday. Follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Don't forget to leave a review. Thanks again for being awesome.